everyone loves a fancy like audit of a homepage. That doesn't matter. You got to just think of it scientifically. What is going to be closest to the money, aka checkout, is closest to the money. So you start optimizing checkout and then backpedal from there. Also, you got to think about where is the traffic coming in from, right? So it's like, we're going to spend all this money optimizing the homepage. It's like, but you're spending $100,000 a month sending traffic directly to your PDP with your top line flagship product. Why are you spending money on the homepage?
Hi, everybody. I'm Aaron Schwartz, one of the founders of Orita. We build AI segmentation for a bunch of Klaviyo brands. We now do ads. We've got some other cool stuff that we're cooking. But today is not about Orita. We're talking to Chase Clymer from Electric Eye, from the Honest Ecommerce podcast, from the great state of Ohio. Chase, I want to get out of the way and have you do a proper intro to yourself, your background, how you got where you were. Don't be too shy on this, and I'll follow up with 1,000 questions for you.
Sure. As you know, as most overnight successes, it started 10 years ago. So the agency kind of was like the natural culmination of just like what I've been up to, kind of my whole, if you could call this a professional life. I was in a band for a long time that didn't pay the bills, so I was always doing internet stuff to make money.
What kind of music?
And
hold on, what was the name of the band? What kind of music?
I played in a pop punk band called City Lights, signed a couple record deals, toured the country a couple dozen times, maybe not that many, but a lot of times. A lot of road miles. I literally will never drive anywhere again. I'm always getting on a plane.
I love it.
But so I kind of cut my teeth on that and kind of learned the service side of things, the consulting side of things a little bit. And then my business partner left his startup. They were like a direct consumer apparel brand. He left that maybe 12 years ago or something like that. And he and I just started tag teaming projects in the e-commerce ecosystem and quickly kind of fell into specifically working with Shopify just because it was a lot easier to do and it was fun, it was exciting, and the partnership program back then, as you already know, like was an amazing ecosystem to be in. And so that's kind of where the origin stories of the agency come from. And then from the agency, the podcast was kind of born because I didn't like writing. I'm a lot better now. I do like writing now, but back then I did not. So kind of started the podcast as just a way to, produce the content that we needed to produce. Like if you have any business you have, service, agency, SaaS, app, whatever you want to call it, you need to be producing content in some way, shape, or form. So that started with the podcast. And then we've been doing the podcast now for 8 years, like over 500 pieces of content, probably a whole bunch of stuff. We're about to hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, probably next week. So a lot of fun stuff.
When you were thinking, let's do the podcast for a little bit, and then we'll obviously jump into the agency and everything you guys are building and how that's changed. So you wanted to produce content. You want to get content out. It was easier for you, or it felt more natural than writing. What were the questions?
Let me clarify here. I'm lazy. I didn't want to do anything. I knew that we had to produce content at a certain cadence about topics that resonated with our ideal customer profile. And we were writing a little bit at the start. And then my project manager, Andrew, was just like, you can talk to anybody. Go start a podcast. Like, why don't you try that for a while? And so that's what we did. And I picked a ridiculous cadence of like one episode a week and backfilled a bunch of episodes and just kind of kept it going. And now 8 years later, it's a pretty awesome system that we have built.
What were the topics that you were most interested in exploring? Because I know, like, kind of as you put it, it was like content that was useful for your audience, right? But for you yourself, you're obviously like getting in this space, studying the ecosystem. Were there topics that early on you were like, man, I can't wait to learn more? And were you finding guests for that? Or was it all about like just finding a shiny name who would kind of like attract the audience? Like, how'd you think about it at first and what it turned into?
At the beginning, it was definitely, let's make sure that we're going to have an episode to release. So it was kind of just shotgun approach. There really wasn't much of a rhyme or reason to who we were having on the podcast other than they were tangentially related to e-commerce in some way, shape, or
Mm.
form. It has definitely evolved now. There is definitely a very strategic approach to who we have on the podcast. But back then it was definitely making sure that we were creating content and honestly just like myself getting better as a host and kind of just going through the motions and getting those 10,000 hours in of like figuring it out.
I got you. Has it influenced how you're building the agency or like your perspective on the ecosystem?
Yeah, podcasting is the best networking tool that you can have at your
Mm.
disposal, and then if you can be smart about it, it can become a very powerful sales tool.
Oh, interesting.
And it is highly collaborative with the efforts that the agency takes on for how we kind of meet people and kind of introduce folks to the agency.
All right. So talk to me about the agency a little bit. So like, what was it founded as? What were the kind of core problems you were solving, and then where have you guys evolved into? Like, I know you do CRO, you did some themes work, you do Shopify migration, right? Like there's a lot in there, but what was that journey like?
When we started, it was Facebook ads for Shopify stores,
Mm.
which we do not do at all anymore, which hilariously enough. So it started as more of like an advertising business.
Sure.
And then we started to do more of the design stuff. That's closely to the start of the business is when we did our first migration project, and it went so bad that we learned how to do them the right way. Like,
Mm.
so that is actually one of the things we are best at now is migrating people to Shopify.
Mm.
But it went from having one just go completely off the rails, learned everything wrong to do. So now obviously we have processes against doing that.
Mm.
But we were kind of full service at the start. So we were doing like managed email for folks. We were doing Facebook ads, and then we were doing like design dev. And then as the business matured and as we grew, we started to kind of really narrow in the focus of what we as an agency wanted to do, the better types of clients that we were working with. Um, and so during the
Mm.
pandemic, we kind of stopped doing any marketing or advertising services and really went all in on what we found were the stickiest and best clients, which were all the clients that were letting us do like ongoing optimization and maintenance stuff and like rebuilds and migrations, right? So everything we were doing was kind of just like, if there was one word behind it, it was optimization. And that's like kind of where we like put our North Star of like, this is the service we're going to offer for folks. And then so these days, and with the new version of our website that will come out in a couple of months, it is very, very blatant that like we are an optimization agency. And so everything we're doing is through that lens. So like if we're migrating somebody from like some other legacy platform that's bad to Shopify, everything we're doing is like optimizing their e-commerce experience to help elevate average order value, lifetime value, revenue per session, whatever it is. We'll agree upon those KPIs when we take the project on. But there's like the bigger projects, it's still an optimization project, or there's like the more typical thing when people think about optimization, they think of conversion rate optimization, CRO. There's the more retainer format of that, and we're doing an awful lot of that these days. But yeah, basically everything we're doing is like we have gone a little bit up market as we've matured too. So it's like the brands that we are working with, they have to have the data to support these types of efforts. So, you're talking 1,000 orders a week basically is like that threshold that you need to really hit. So where you can get that one, you could get statistical significance on a A/B test, but
Mm.
also to you're doing post-purchase surveys. You need people to fill those out in kind of like a timely fashion. If you're doing heat mapping and you want to get a lot of data back from that, you need enough visitors to kind of support that effort. So it does take a certain velocity and a certain maturity of merchant. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I like that you guys were kind of broad and you're obviously getting more and more narrow. Is it so there's kind of two different pathways if I'm bringing a brand into you? One is like they're all set up and it's like they've got the data. Let's go down the optimization path, maybe the CRO path at the very least to start. The second is they're on some legacy platform and they want to come over. Right. And like
Yeah.
it's not,
Well,
oh,
the
cool.
ultimate
Where's
goal
also like, yeah.
The ultimate goal is we get them to Shopify, and then we can start doing the ongoing CRO work. But we can't do that if they're not on Shopify, because our
What is,
entire tech stack and the nerdy stuff we like to do is really ingrained to Shopify.
I love it. What are the reasons brands still aren't coming to Shopify? It feels like, I mean, literally I was a Shopify brand a dozen years ago, maybe longer, actually longer. I have to look at the calendar to figure out how long ago it was. Like, are people reticent just because it costs money and it's timely? It's like, we're fine where we are, or what else is slowing down people from moving to Shopify?
I think there's a lot of like legacy brands move slow. So if they're like on a weird antiquated platform, they might have some weird antiquated ERP that needs to be like they'll invent their own blockers, which basically all come from this like hesitation to migrate to modern technology. And let's be real, a lot of those ERP, PIM, all that CRM, like that stuff's expensive problems to overhaul and resolution. So there, there's budgetary requirements, right? When I say legacy, it doesn't mean necessarily profitable or has a lot of money or budget. It just means they're an old company. So there's a lot of considerations into that stuff. Recently, there are some technical requirements I've seen where Shopify doesn't make the most sense, but we're like the first to bow out of like a project if it like anyone trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's like this, you're trying too hard here, and there's a million fish in the sea. We'll just go find another project that's better for us, right? So we're never trying to like we want to work with the right clients where we know we can deliver them the right results.
All right, so you've got that legacy brand. It actually makes sense for them to move over. They've got the budget, they can do it. You're setting them up on Shopify. With the intent of, okay, cool, once we get going, then we're going to start optimizing. What is like the base level tech stack that you're bringing in these days? I always used to think about it. If a friend was starting a brand, I'd be like, oh, well, of course, use Shopify, and you should use Klaviyo, you should use, Gorgeous, whatever, right? That was how I used to think about this. For you guys setting a brand up for success, what are the core kind of tools? And you don't have to choose like one or the other, but like, what are the problems that they need to have solved?
Yeah. And I mean, this is either for like when you're talking about a brand migrating from another platform to Shopify, they are more mature and they probably have more like functionality that you need to solve for, right? And it's like Toby from Shopify said this himself. Shopify solves for 80% of things for 80% of merchants. That other 20% is what the app ecosystem is for, the partner ecosystem. And he is not wrong. So if I'm thinking back on a recent migration project, obviously when you're doing a migration, you've got to migrate all the data, and there is no one way to put data in any one platform. So it's basically a bespoke kind of data manipulation project within a project. So you're bringing all this data over. So you've got your historical customers, you've got your historical orders. You need to make sure those things are tied to each other. You've got coupon codes. You've got 301 redirects that need to get set up the right way. You've got collections. You've got blogs, right? You got all this stuff. So there's this data part of the migration that needs to get solved for. So there's like a really functional thing there. And then the SEO consideration and AEO now is a big thing, is like the AEO consideration of a migration. Like that's a thing that everyone skips, and then their migration goes bad, and then they have problems and they ask us to fix them. And we just go, you should have hit us up 3, 4, 6 months ago, whatever it was. So there's all that stuff. And then there's the kind of the design layer, right? It's like your old system fundamentally is built on a different technology language than what Shopify is built on. This design is like, doesn't matter. It's like, actually, to make it the same design is probably infinitely more work than just doing a better design. So you got to walk through all the design requirements for the project and kind of solve for those. Are you guys going to keep it within the box and use a great off-the-shelf theme? Or do we need to tailor the experience to match what the brand needs? And these are, more luxury brands tend to need a little bit more of a finessed experience, or brands with like a more complex offer need a little bit more of a finessed experience. So there's all these design considerations. And then there's like the functionality considerations that I was talking about, right? So out of the box, Shopify now has Shopify bundles, but let's be real, they're not the best. So you're going to be solutioning for bundling, for upsells, for cross sells, email marketing automation, obviously usually going to be Klaviyo. All of these like different kind of pieces of the puzzle you're going to be solutioning for. Loyalty is a big thing that we see with migrations, and then migrating over loyalty points is a giant pain in the behind. But yeah, so migrations, a lot more work. But if it's just like a net new startup, that's kind of a different conversation. I just listed off 5 or 6 solutions, but these migration projects usually have like a dozen different apps that we're setting up and reintegrating. For a net new startup, I say, what is the absolute minimum you need to launch this and go get market validation? Like, you don't need a loyalty program from day one if you have 0 customers, right? You need to go find more customers, and then you can just backfill their loyalty information later on. So it's like we try to be like, all right, from launch, you need the website, you need email marketing automation, and you need reviews, maybe bundling, right? If you've got some sort of commoditized good that like value scale, right? We can argue for all sorts of stuff, but it's like a lot of this depends on their go-to-market plan. But it's a lot of people like to do a lot of busy work up front when they're building a brand, and what they should really focus on is just going to get customers, which is the hardest and scariest thing. And they like want to just like avoid that for as long as possible. So they're like, we're going to set up 13 apps that we don't need because we have no business. No, just go get live and go sell.
Half my career has been running a brand, and then the other half has been effectively being in the ecosystem, right? And being like on the app layer on some level, some form of another for Shopify and now Klaviyo. Fully bought in on all the apps that are out there, and there's going to get, you mentioned reviews. We could name 7 of them that are all good enough, and you go find the one that's right for you. How has Shopify as like a platform been changing, and how's that impacted your ability to serve customers? Like, the product velocity with editions is just out of this world, and like all the AI tooling is getting better and better. Is it becoming easier for you to migrate, or is it actually, my God, there's so many choices, and now like we have customers who are like, hey, we should consider X, Y, and Z. We're like, that is irrelevant. Like, how is kind of the day in the life for the agency change because of Shopify's velocity?
I mean, it hasn't really changed for us because Shopify always announces these new cool features, and then they don't come out for 6 months to a year. So it's like, that's great, but we still have to get this project done. So, it's a lot of just like educating of our merchants, but it's like, that's what you get working with, not even like a brand, like any agency that's been around as long as we have, they've just got this inherent knowledge of the ecosystem, of the apps, of the solutions that exist. So like, what you're asking them for, they've probably solved for before. So they've got like their preferred tech stack that they're going to like kind of bring to the table and be like, these are the things that we want to use. Just because our team's familiar with them, we're efficient with them, we've got a great partnership with them. If any weird edge case comes up, they're going to respond to us and answer those questions. And then the same kind of with Shopify, like we're Shopify Plus partners, maybe something higher here soon. And so we can bend their ear to get answers to stuff that's coming down the pipeline. We can get our clients into, like beta programs for testing new features. We've done that before. But that's like one of the reasons to work with a Shopify expert that has, the tenure that we have, is like, we just know what works because we've done it a dozen times before.
Heard. All right, I want to get into maybe some more tactical stuff on the optimization side. Obviously everybody should go work with Chase. Okay, let's put that to the side. I come to you and I'm a $10 million, $30 million brand, right? I know what I'm doing, got good data, yada, yada. What are the like first things you're going to do in our hour-long meeting? Like, what are you auditing? Are you auditing my AEO strategy? Are you like going through a shopper journey? Like, I'm actually curious, how do you go inspect a brand to be like, here's the low-hanging fruit, or maybe not low-hanging fruit, but the highest, the place we should apply the most pressure that'll have the biggest ROI for the brand? Like, what do you look at?
It's kind of defaults back to like, what have you guys been doing, right? And I have talked to this through the podcast, through going to dozens of conferences over the past couple of years. I start talking to founders that are still kind of leading the ecom side, or like directors of ecom, ecom managers, whatever. And it's like, oh, like, hey, what are you doing for like, CRO, for split testing? How are you coming up with ideas? Like, what does that look like for you? And what we have learned is it is basically the number one pain point that they have. They're like, we know we should do it, but there's so much other stuff that is on our plate that has to get done that has uh, a time limit to it. Like this ad needs to go live because this campaign needs to go live, right? So it's like doing this educational research and and generating these hypotheses and like building these split tests. We know we need to do it. We just don't have the capacity to do it. So
Just
that is,
let me double click on that. It's like, is it a split test of, different landing pages? Is it a split test of content? Is it a split test of ads? Like, or is it kind of all the above? Just like you'll have these brands
it's all the above, and it's also like furnishing those ideas. There's like a bunch of ways to come up with ideas. So just you and I being in the game for so long, looking at a website and be like, oh, like that's weird. Maybe try this. That's like a heuristic insight, right? But that's just like some dude's opinion. You can go and back that up with data from like GA4. You could look at it in heat maps. You could have customer surveys tell you that, like user testing. Heck, you could get it from reviews. You could get it from customer service tickets. There's like a lot of ways to get direct feedback from the customer, identifying issues and potentially even solving the issue. Sometimes they tell you what they want instead. So you get all this information from all these different sources, and you want to kind of distill them down into like the sentiment of like, oh, these are all the same. And then you can kind of rank them based upon, we use a ranking thing called PXL, and you can like CXL is a website where you can learn how to do CRO. PXL is a framework that the founder kind of invented. We use like our version of that, where you can put the hypothesis in there, and then like based upon like where it is on the page, how fast it shows up, all sorts of other stuff. It is a binary way to help you determine a number, and then you just rank by those numbers to see like what this should be the most impactful thing that you should work on first, right? So that's kind of our approach, is like, let's get a whole bunch, like we know there's things that need to be fixed, and sure, we can work on those first, but also once those are done, how are we furnishing more ideas? And this is the way you do it. You get data from the customers using the website, and then those are furnishing the ideas for you to fix. And by fix, I mean test.
No, understood. And then is it the type of thing where for you with a lot of your brands, it's actually like engendering the behavior of constantly testing and not just having to be like, we did this, we've solved it, but
that is like an unknown. It's not like unknown. It's that is like a secondary thing we have to do within these relationships, is like introduce this concept of making sure that we're testing things, and like also being like, every test is not going to be a winner. Even things we believe are going to be home runs sometimes aren't. They're flat, and then you realize afterwards, you're like, oh yeah, we forgot this thing, right? And so that is when you get comfortable. Like obviously with all startups and entrepreneurship, it's just like making decisions usually accelerates growth. But if you're making the decisions and not tracking like what happens from those decisions, that's essentially just launching stuff on the website and just never looking at the data. Some of those decisions might be counter to the goal of why you like did it. And so that's like why you really do want to split test this stuff. And then that's also why you want the velocity to be testing this stuff. So we've got some clients that their velocity isn't as fast. And when I mean velocity, it's like how fast are they getting orders? So like they're not hitting statistical significance on a test for like 3 weeks to a month, because that's just like the volume of orders that they have, which means that to get the proof, it's a lot slower. And maybe their marketing message has changed. Maybe Facebook's algorithm has changed. So there's a lot more, it makes it a lot more of like a binary thing. Like, did this thing win or not? But yeah, getting into that testing mentality and like kind of just being like, hey, CRO isn't like this like silver bullet to fix anything. It's more of like a way of life, man.
I love it. All right. So I'm a founder. I'm bought into this new way of life. I've like seen the light, right? I use the PXL, CXL framework or IntelliGems. Or I'm sure there are 1,000 tools that would help me.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, we use IntelliGems for all sorts of stuff. PXL is just a glorified Google sheet, and you can go steal it from their website. It's dope.
Google Sheets are pretty good, man. I guess my question is like, and again, I know it's always, it depends, but abstracting, where are the places that you think call like mid-market brands should actually be looking and being like, here's where I would
Oh,
first.
I can give you real direct feedback here. All right, so um, everyone loves a fancy like audit of a homepage. That doesn't matter. You got to just think of it scientifically. What is going to be closest to the money, aka checkout, is closest to the money. So you start optimizing checkout and then backpedal from there. So you can go one step forward and you can post purchase page, or from that, or if you're backpedaling from checkout to side cart and cart, and then from there to product page, and then from there, I would argue collection page and homepage are pretty on equal footing there. Also, you got to think about where is the traffic coming in from, right? So it's like, we're going to spend all this money optimizing the homepage. It's like, but you're spending $100,000 a month sending traffic directly to your PDP with your top line flagship product. Why are you spending money on the homepage? Like, that's where most people are going, right? So I gave you a bunch of like places to go there, but from that, it would be, you should have a heat mapping software running. I am a huge fan of heatmap.com because they bring in the e-commerce like data layer to the heat maps. And so that is like number one, make sure you have that on to help you furnish like more data and see how customers are interacting with your site. Next from there, making sure that you've got GA4 working correctly. We're a big fan of this tool called Slide Rule Analytics that, for a quick answer, fixes the Shopify GA4 integration, makes those numbers super close, and that's what everybody wants. And then lastly, another like quick tool is like customer surveys. You should be surveying your customers all the time, not just when you're like starting a CRO project. And I actually just interviewed Jason from Zigpol on my podcast yesterday. It'll probably come out in a couple weeks. Especially by the time this is out, it's probably going to be dropping as a bonus episode. But Zigpol is one of our favorite softwares for getting like first party data, but basically just like for polling. Like, so post-purchase surveys, you can learn about, is there anything wrong with the website, blah, blah, blah. But also you can do like exit intent pop-ups of like, so let's say on that flagship product page where people like, where this hypothetical brand was spending $100,000 a month on meta ads to send traffic there. You like set up a survey to like catches them as, the exit intent, the mouse is going towards the navigation bar or whatever. So there's a pop-up there and it's like, did this page have all the information you needed to make, an informed decision, yes or no? And then with that micro opt-in, you've got them bought in a bit more. So then you can ask them the open-ended question that you really care about. You don't really care about the first question. And the open-ended question is like, what information is this page missing, right? And then so that will start to furnish a whole bunch of results. Like basically, you'll start to see patterns in there. It's like, I don't know if this will fit in my pantry. Like all the pictures are on a white background. I don't know how big this bowl is, right? That's just one example. But you'll start to see those patterns. You go, duh, like why we should, and your customers will literally tell you how to make your website better.
Chase, when you do this and you go get this information, right? Is it like you need the CEO to be reading it, the VP of e-commerce, CS? Is it everybody like getting? There's data everywhere, right? But then there's
they're not. No one on their team's reading it. We're building them an executive summary. So we work in various different ways, but basically it's like we just did a project and we were, and it took a lot longer because it's a huge company, bunch of people buying in. They kind of like. They were so well-intentioned and they are a great client and they're fun to work with, but they were kind of like, we want to do this. And they're like, well, we have this thing that we need to do instead. And like, so it was a whole bunch, it was breaking all of our processes left and right. But anyways, at the end of this engagement, we had 42 hypotheses from the engagement. And that we basically just folded that into, we're just redesigning the entire website because this is just like, all of this makes sense. And that they kind of already wanted to do that from the get-go. So we were just making sure that the redesign touched all the bases on all the stuff that we're getting from their customers. But yeah, it's like, we have all this data and it's just informing these hypotheses, but like the CEO is basically gonna like maybe look at the spreadsheet, most likely just look at the executive summary and go, yeah, this sounds great. Let's do this stuff. We're the ones nerding out and getting in there.
It's not Amazon.com. It's not Amazon. No, okay. So think about the checkout. What are the things
Yeah.
that people should be toying with the checkout? Is it like free shipping, different shipping options? Is it like insurance products, checkout plus? Like, where are the places where you think, again, you're talking to a generic brand right now, where like there's probably some bang for the buck to just go explore?
Okay. So this is not hypothetical. This is like psychological. People
Mhm.
don't buy, they don't buy products because of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? So if I'm in checkout, I have enough certainty about this thing to get there, but maybe I doubt it's going to solve my problem like it's solving it for everyone else. So maybe we need to put some social proof in there, some testimonials
Mm.
from other customers right there in checkout to really help them, you know, take this kind of step, right? Maybe it is a product to where the quickness of shipping is super important. So they're uncertain it's going to get there before their vacation. So you've got like the shipping, like this will be here on Tuesday, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, other sort of trust factors that you could bring in that make sense to your business and your customers. But a lot of this stuff will get furnished through kind of that abandoned cart stuff, abandoned browser abandonment stuff, like where you're like, oh, like what wasn't here. A lot of that
Mhm.
also might make sense like in checkout as like a pared down version to kind of like put that there in checkout. So that's like the CRO mindset there is like, how do I help
Mhm.
eliminate fear, uncertainty, and doubt in my customer's decision to buy this product? But also, conversion rate optimization is dumb misnomer. You can optimize for other stuff. Let's talk about average order value. Put an upsell in that checkout, and now
Mhm.
instead of making $30, you're making $60 because you sold two of your widgets instead of one, right? Another thing we're talking about with one client right now is in checkout switching from a single time payment to subscription, right? And incentivizing those. You can change those offers and incentivize them everywhere. Even post purchase, you can give them a little bit of a better offer, or maybe
Mhm.
another free gift to really just try to push them over the hunch. But yeah, like conversion rate optimization is like not just trying to optimize for conversion. It's like also you can take a hit on conversion if your average order value is like way higher. And because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is more sales, right? So that kind of comes down to the metric called revenue per session.
Interesting. Um, I like the reframe. And I like moving away from conversion rate optimization. I'm the one who's kind of been pushing this. And, as we started the conversation, you were like, hey, it's optimization. And like, I couldn't be more with you. I always think about like return rates as well and understanding in the data,
Yep.
which are the products that'll be returned too much. So therefore, like,
Aaron, what a great statement. So, analyzing the reasons for returns is something that we also like to look at. And AI
cool.
is your friend here. And we fully admit it to our clients like, hey, yeah, we're using Claude, we're using ChatGPT, we're trying everything. We just got a nano
Mm.
banana thing just to do some really fun stuff for redesign things. But like sentiment analysis through large data sets is like what AI is born to do.
Yeah.
And so, we got, what was it? 11,000 tickets from that client I was just talking about, of like their customer service tickets from them. Obviously scraped out any identifiable information about any clients. We're not dumping that in there, but we dumped it in and we've got some prompts that we have, but it furnished all these like very specific. It's like, all right, people are talking about this, they're talking about this, they're talking about this, and here's potential hypothesis of how to solve for
Mm.
these repeated issues that are coming up. It was a lot of stuff around fitment, and it was a lot of stuff around size, like that I kind of already alluded to.
I like it. All right. I'm going to pin you down for a little bit more tactical advice. Sorry.
Sure.
Talk to me about the PDP. What are the things that people should be exploring on the product page itself?
Yeah. So there's two types of businesses. Obviously there's millions, but there's two types of businesses. There's a business that uh their products are more like collection based. So think apparel. They're gonna have a spring, summer, fall line, whatever. They're so you're not optimizing for a single product. You're optimizing for the brand as a whole, right? And then you've got businesses where they really do have like a flagship product. Think of a razor, and you're selling razor blades after the fact, maybe, but it's like the product is the one flagship product, right? And so when it is that collection based thing, you go back to like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? So you want to have user proof and customer testimonials and reviews up there in the buy box. You want to have the shipping information there, but we're not really gamifying that buy box really, because do I need 3 versions of this sweater? Probably not. So your goal is just to sell that sweater, and then maybe down the line, if you want to start having some more fun with it, you're just talking about cross sells and other stuff, or maybe like hitting certain thresholds with gamifying the cart. That's more AOV motivation. But for like optimizing that PDP for more of a collection thing, it's like you need to talk about how the brand, like how this brand is so special and it rules. Quince does a fantastic job of this, by the way. Also, I'm really big fans of Unbound Moreno, the way that they approach this
Mhm.
stuff. But Quince was just so awesome. Like I was on their website the other day, and I literally bought something from them just because I loved. Like it's such a well thought out way to
Mhm.
do kind of like, here's the value behind our product. Here's like why you're saving money. Here is uh, customer proof that they enjoyed it. Here's like the 5-star ratings, all sorts of stuff. So that's like a good one for those collection based businesses. And then when you're talking about like a product that's like more of a flagship, you get into CPG where it's like a consumable, and then you can have all sorts of fun, right? So you need to think about like, how is your customer buying this? Are they really only buying one of them, or do they want to buy like a couple different ones of them? Like, so
Mhm.
let's think of like something that comes in flavors. So you've got like, a grape flavor, an apple flavor, and a raspberry flavor. How are your customers shopping? Are they buying
Mhm.
8 of one? So should you make it easy for me to like, get an automatic discount appearing on that within that buy box of me buying 8 of one flavor? Or are people buying, a couple of each different flavor? And then do you still want to give them that discount, right? To incentivize that. So now you're building basically like some kind of like DIY bundle builder type solution.
Mhm.
That's like, you want to make sure that the experience on that PDP is as easy for your customer to buy as much junk as possible. And then going back to getting rid of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Reviews, testimonials, user generated content, social proof, all that jazz.
I like it. I mean, at the end of the day, everything you're talking about is what do your customers want and how do you help your customers, right? Like you spend all this time building an incredible product. How do we help make the customer journey more informative for them, proactively answer questions, remove doubt that they might have? Um, you
The
you
more we
mentioned
got into the
go
more
go
we
go.
got into this CRO rabbit hole, the easier our jobs got. Because it was just basically just like, I don't know, let's find out what your customers want. And it's just like, we just listen to their customers for them. And they're like, all right, there is solutioning. Like there is like there's some strategies, some expertise that comes along with it. It's like, we know the customer wants this. Now, how do we bend Shopify to our will to do this?
Hmm. Oh, I like that. Um, I think probably for the last thread I want to pull on, you mentioned AEO in passing before. I don't want to
Yeah.
just go into AEO, but obviously like shopper journeys are changing, right? Shopper, like just the entryway to a website to research is changing. How are you advising your brands to kind of build up, be more durable for the next 6 months, a year, like get ready for changing shopper behavior, if at all?
Yeah, and just to go on record here, we're not an SEO firm, we're not an AEO firm. We're like very AI positive, and we are like really trying to see how efficient we can make it for ourselves, because that only benefits our clients.
Tomorrow I'm
But
interviewing an agency that hates AI. No, I'm just kidding. This is
I love that. What I think is, if you have an SEO strategy, I think that AEO is just like the natural evolution of SEO, where AI is just a conversational search engine at the end of the day. So it's like, if you're making the right choices where you're getting high authority backlinks to your content and to your brand, you're getting featured in like the Wall Street Journal or Forbes or whatever, like any other like high domain authority editorial. You're producing high quality content that is ranking well on Google. If you're making all of those choices, I feel like all of the LLMs are also going to approve of that content and approve of you in a good way. Now, the reason it came up earlier is we're talking about migrations. And if you have all this content on your old website and Google is used to crawling it in a certain way on the old website, it is fundamentally changing. The code is changing, the URL is changing. It is fundamentally changing when it goes from old platform to Shopify. So you need to make sure that your plan is in place to help mitigate Google's confusion. And now we're learning more. It's like, all right, and then if we do our best to mitigate Google's confusion, we believe we're also doing our best to mitigate like, any sort of AI's confusion about this stuff.
got it. Thank you. Um, I'm curious. maybe somewhat on the same thread, thinking about new technologies, you write some checks, you invest in some startups, you whether from that or through the podcast or just from running your agency, you see the whole landscape of this ecosystem. What are some places that you're excited about seeing some innovation, or if you could like have a request for startups, or hey, can't wait for this problem to be solved? Where are some things that intrigue you the most?
Well, I don't know. When you said this, I just started thinking about how like my inbox is just inundated with new AI chatbots, which I don't think we need any more of those. So I would say don't do that. Um, but I think that if you just from the podcast, I've interviewed so many brands and learned so much about how to build a good brand and like how to find product market fit. And then also, I did an interview earlier this week, and so they were doing innovation in the nicotine cessation space. So think of like Nicorette gum. It was actually Quit with Jones was the brand that'll be out in a couple of weeks. But that we had a good conversation around how it's like you don't need to actually have a unique idea per se. You just have to have a unique execution and in a way that appeals to the current market. So I do think that AI will help software apps and brands and all sorts of stuff. But if you're building a like if if your business is just like a cloud wrapper, like I don't think you're going to be sustainable because like anyone can weaken code that thing. But if you are finding, a real problem people have and finding a way to use AI to solve it faster or more efficiently, or if you want to take a different angle to it, anytime you're doing risk reversal, it's way easier to sell the thought of losing money than it is to sell people saving money. Some sort of insurance policy. That was a cop out answer to you, but like I think about this stuff all the time.
I mean, I'm open to wherever you want to take that question. I would like it if we just scripted all this and it was much more boring and I knew exactly what you were going to say. I keep saying last topic, but I think actually last topic. You and I were talking
Oh,
offline
you
a little
got me
bit.
for 15 more minutes, man.
I was
I
going
don't
to say I'm going
care.
to keep going. Sorry. And one more thing. We were talking a little bit about subscription businesses.
Yeah.
Where do you guys? How do you work with subscription businesses? Are you trying to make non-subscription businesses figure out ways to create bundles or subscriptions? Yeah, just talk a little bit about that and like what are some of the new tools or like how are subscription businesses evolving?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I see this on LinkedIn and I like to have my own opinion, but on this one, I kind of think I agree with folks. There's like a bit of subscription fatigue. Subscription was like the end all be all for a while there. So everyone like had a subscription component to their business. There are a lot of new players in the space. We're friendly with all of them. A lot of our clients come to us already with a subscription component of their business kind of sorted out. So unless there's like some underlying fundamental need, we're not moving them from like one solution to another. But it is evolving a bit. We helped a brand launch a their we like I would say they were a legacy brand, and we helped them launch a subscription component to their business about 6 years ago. And what they had learned is their customer didn't want to subscribe per se to receiving that product on any sort of specific kind of interval, but they were interested in almost the same exact solution, but in a different way, just being a member to receive a better rate on purchasing that on the cadence that they wanted. So I think that memberships and into that also like loyalty and memberships kind of go hand in hand. I think that is worth exploring, especially for brands where it isn't necessarily like a commodity, but it is something where I don't know, like a lifestyle apparel company. Like that is something where I don't think like the t-shirt of the month club, sure, maybe it works, but like maybe for a customer that buys 4 times a year, they're okay with like being on a small membership to receive faster shipping and exclusive drops or what have you. So that's something we're seeing in the space a bit more, and it's pretty fun.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same theme as earlier, which is like actually listen to your customers, figure out what they want. I will acknowledge that in 2010, I started a watch company and we did print on demand watches. And we eventually created the Watch of the Month Club. And every single month we would send people. And I think at peak we had like 40 members. It was so great. But it was just like we got to do whatever designs we wanted and people were bought in. So, sometimes people do want a lot of apparel, Chase. And it was a great idea at the time.
Absolutely.
You would have fired me as a client so fast. So this is exciting. All right, man. This has been really fun. Thank you for taking the time. I wanted to create a little bit of space. If there's anything that you kind of shared that you want to double click on, or you didn't get to share, like any tips or advice, and then secondarily, where can folks find you?
Yeah. Well, I would just say, go listen to our podcast and enjoy it in whatever format you like. We put out the videos on YouTube. I think we're about to hit 10,000 subscribers. So maybe you can be one of those if you like to kind of enjoy content on YouTube. If not, if you just like it on the traditional podcast way, or you just want to like put it on 2x speed because you don't like my normal speaking voice,
2.5.
like we're on every other
2.5.
Yeah, we're on every other podcast, platform out there. And so go check out that content. We put out, 4 to 6 pieces of content a month. And then if anything I was talking about today kind of resonated with you, you're looking to migrate over to Shopify, or maybe you're a funded startup and just want to do it right the first time, or, more importantly, like you're like, I think we're ready for CRO and we want to talk to like some real people about it. We've got like our Shopify diagnostic. And if you heard from me from this show, I can probably give away 1 or 2 of those before my business partner catches on. So time is of the essence. You can reach out to us and we'll kind of get that set up. And that's electriceye.io. And then the podcast is honestecommerce.com.
I love it. Last thing. Are you actually going to be at Sub Summit? I know we were talking about that earlier.
Unfortunately, I will not be there, but Paul from our team will be there.
Cool.
And if anyone else is going to be there, reach out, email Paul, and he'll invite you to a steak dinner.
You're my conference buddy, so I can't wait till I see you. I'm sure within a week or two, somewhere in this world.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Thank you for your time, Chase. This was awesome.
Yeah, I had a blast. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Aaron Schwartz, co-founder and co-CEO of Orita.ai. We build AI customer segmentation for some of Klaviyo's biggest brands like Oriana, Spanx, Caraway, Third Love, True Classic, Rem Beauty, and on and on. Brands come to us to help find untapped revenue, improve their click rate, drive away mean bots, and a bunch more. You can learn more or get a free customer engagement audit at Orita.ai.